And the purpose of yoga is, like you said already, is to unite the body, the breath, the mind, and the spirit. So the word signifies that.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the podcast Learniverse, a program designed to educate people on diverse range of content. I'm your host Ruhan Ahmed, joining you from the studios of MTA International Gambia. And in today's podcast, we are going to discuss about an ancient practice that aims to connect body, breath, and the mind, and that is called yoga. And to discuss this interesting topic, we are joined by an expert in the studio with us. She is Melissa Deswani. Welcome to the show and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much for having me today on this podcast.
Yeah, it's our pleasure. So before we delve deeper into its understanding, can you tell us the fundamental meaning of the word itself, yoga?
Okay, so the word yoga, it is coming from a ancient script called Sanskrit, from the word yud. It means to unite or to connect, to join. And the purpose of yoga is, like you said already, is to unite the body, the breath, the mind, and the spirit. So the word signifies that.
Okay,
yeah.
Thank you very much for highlighting that. And yoga itself can be interpreted in so many different ways. So for you, how do you define this practice yoga? And can you also brush us through the brief history of this practice?
Okay, so like you said, there's many interpretations of yoga. I think I will start with a quick a basis of the birth of yoga. I mean, yoga has been around for many thousands of years ago, but the earliest recording in terms of in writing has been written in the 4th century, so that's still quite a long time ago, many thousands of years. And that's the text that we often refer back to because it outlines the guidelines of yoga. And these guidelines are like teaching you a way of life, how you can live your life so that you can be in peace, you can be in harmony with yourself, but also the understanding that you yourself as an individual is a small part of a bigger cosmic universe, and that you should be able to see yourself as that part of that universe rather than only an individual. So it's trying to, the practice of yoga tries to neutralize like egoistic behaviors and thoughts, and also reducing like selfishness and things like that through the practice. So originally, it was, created in the region of India. But I think also there are overlaps with other areas in the world that have ancient scriptures that reflect similarities with what we now know as yoga. So I can't say exactly with birth where the exact birth is, but the reason why we go back to India is because a lot of the teachings have been passed on in India. So from those ancient texts that we have, we call it the Patanjali Sutra, because it was this sage Patanjali that has written down these sutras, different collections of phrases that guide you through this process. And from there, of course, different people interpret these texts and then, emphasize on different areas. And so now in this modern era, we have yoga, but then it branches out to many different forms of yoga. So maybe you have heard of schools of yoga like Hatha Yoga, we have Ashtanga, we have Iyengar, we have Kundalini, and then it continues, it can divide further into, more specific types of different types of yoga as well. So I would point back to the origin of yoga being as what Patanjali has recorded, and how I interpret yoga it's a good question, because if you ask anybody what is yoga, everybody will tell you something different. I think it's all relative in your experience, the knowledge you have about yoga, but the personal experience and the practice that you've had with yoga can also change your interpretation. Like I began yoga thinking that it was a physical practice and a breathing practice. But then there's a lot of philosophical aspects to yoga as well, which is very important. And like I said before, that the ultimate goal is to kind of reduce that sense of self and to be part of, to acknowledge and try to be part of that bigger cosmic, yes. So, that part was very obscure to me at the beginning because it's difficult to understand, especially, I was much younger. I was still in high school, and, these things I was still trying to figure out. Now, I would say yoga, if I was to define yoga, yes, it's a way of lifestyle, but it allows you to build skills that guides you through your life, but also understand how to deal with situations in a less reactive manner, right? So we work on a lot of observances. We, take time to react. So we try not to react, right, to situations as much as we can. Try to understand, internalize, why am I feeling this way? So it's not just physical, it's also very internal, very psychological, trying to understand yourself. Because without knowing yourself, how can you be saying that you're going to be part of the cosmic and to be one with the universe if you cannot even understand yourself? So the first part in yoga is always trying to understand your own self.
Your own personality. Yeah.
Yes, personality, but also your behavior patterns, or maybe things that are not good for you that you're continuously doing. So, you can practice yoga to try to reduce these things which is not good for you. Maybe it's your, eating habit. Maybe it's your thinking pattern, or, these typical features that people may have that gives them grievances, or, makes them feel...
So it's just like, sorry, it just like gives you a different way of approaching things.
It gives you a different view on approaching things, yes, with a goal, with an aim to achieve that peace. You're not trying to become better than somebody else. You're not there to compare yourself with another. You're not trying to put somebody down so that you can climb up higher. It's more about your own learnings, and knowing that you are also part of everybody else that's around you and the environment. Yeah.
Thank you very much for highlighting these interesting points. Yeah, but obviously there are so many, misconceptions in connection to yoga practice. Mm-hmm. So what are those common misconceptions that you might have heard? Because like some people take it as a physical exercise, as you have already highlighted. They think that it helps to improve flexibility, and that's its job. So some say it is more of a practice which is connected with women. So there are certain myths. So
yes,
if you want
definitely, as with my experience with yoga, I've heard many different things. I would say within the span of my teaching experience, the biggest misinterpretation that I've come across is that everybody thinks that you have to be flexible to do yoga. Yeah, you don't have to be flexible to do yoga. You can barely move also, and you can still start to practice yoga, because it's not just physical aspect. We have the breathing practice. Everybody can breathe. If you're not breathing, you're not alive. So you cannot say, I cannot do yoga. If you can breathe, we can all start yoga somewhere. You can change your behavior. You can change the way you behave within the society. These things are also part of yoga. So just saying that, oh, no, I cannot do yoga because I'm so stiff, I can't even do this, I can't even touch my toes, that's probably one of the biggest misconceptions, because people see that in the media, that's the connection people make, because when you hear yoga, then you often see people in some crazy asana postures, that most people maybe cannot just do like that. You have to have years of practice. And even after years of practice, it doesn't mean you can do every single asana or the positions that are described. And that doesn't mean you are not good at yoga, or that you are not doing yoga, So that's probably one of the biggest misconceptions. Now, the other misconceptions that I also hear is that yoga is a religion. So, I think that understanding or that belief comes because it was originally written in Sanskrit, and then it's being passed on in the early years within India. And a lot of the teachers have been of Indian descent, maybe from like the Hindu belief and everything. So I think that's where people get a little bit confused as to, okay, it's coming out of that culture. So then it's highly tied to the religion of Hinduism. I think that there is overlap in I'm not saying that yoga is religion, but any religion would say non-violence, for example. All religion would say you have to be kind. There's an overlap in all the religions in terms of the basic principles as a human that you should uphold to have peace in life and to create peace in your environment. So that is common. But you cannot say, because they say that in Sanskrit or in Hindi, that it is Hinduism or that it is Buddhism, or, So the teachings behind it is not based on religion. But maybe over time, over history, because of the place that it has been passed on, if it's from that region, people start to add on their own interpretation, they add on their own beliefs. And so in some places, maybe it feels a bit more connected to the religion. But then if you come across in different areas, then it's completely different. You can go and practice yoga, believing different religion. Like you could be a Muslim and practice yoga that can deepen your own, religion, your belief and your practice. You could be a Christian and practice yoga, and that can help you once again to strengthen and deepen your religion, your relationship with your religion. So that's the spiritual aspect of yoga, is developing that connection of yourself with what you believe.
Just like the performance of meditation, which is also very much in line with the performance of yoga. So I think certain activities in one way or the other find itself connected with religion. Yes.
And meditation is also part of yoga.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
as we said, it's the physical, it's the behavioral, it's the breathing, the pranayama, and it's also the meditation. These are the stages that we should attain to be able to achieve that ultimate stage in life. So yes, there is definitely an overlap, and I think that's why there's a little bit of misconceptions.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, thank you very much for that. So what about tell us about the mechanism or the working of the postures in yoga. It says that it helps to strengthen the power of mind. It also fosters a sense of harmony. So tell us about the mechanism of these postures.
The postures of yoga, we call them asana. So we have many different asanas in yoga, as you probably seen in the media. So the postures of yoga essentially is to free the joints as well as create strength in the body. So if you have a not so well-maintained body, maybe you're not healthy, maybe you don't do any exercise, your mind is also going to end up carrying those remnants of dis-ease. So the first step also is to make yourself healthy, the best your body can be at that stage. So obviously we cannot all be at the same stage. We cannot all be at the same level, but you should maintain yourself to be the best you can be Yeah, so that enables you to open that next step into maintaining and achieving the better breathing. And then with the breathing, you can also progress to your meditation, but you should be feeling comfortable enough also to maintain a particular position for long enough to meditate. So if you cannot maintain asana, if you're not trained to maintain an asana for very long, how can you guarantee yourself you can stay in a meditative position for that long? Because you lose focus, you lose concentration, you lose your breathing, and then your mind will become a mess. So the asana practice trains the yogi to develop stillness, to develop focus, concentration, to connect with the breath, and to maintain that for as long as they can. So that's essentially what the asanas are trying to make you learn. Yeah.
No, thank you
And
very
that,
much.
I guess, brings a lot of peace to the mind as well, because your focus is shifting away from what you are feeling or what you are thinking about your day or your situations, but you are focusing on something much deeper.
Thank you very much for that as well. So we are almost at the end of this sitting. So I want you to share a general piece of advice for the listeners, in concerning some people, they have questions what is the best time for starting performing yoga, and how frequently they should perform for it to have an impact on us, and should we do it before meal or after a meal, this kind of
Sure. So the best thing you can do is to just start, to find out more about it, essentially. And I would also encourage everybody that before we start the physical practice, because that's obviously very accessible to everybody to move their body or to do the breathing practice, I would also encourage them to understand a bit about the philosophy behind yoga. So the things like do and don'ts as a person, to how you should behave in the society, and how you should behave or restrict yourself from certain things which is not good for you. So just have a little understanding that yoga is not just about doing these postures, but it also encompasses how you live your daily life. So yoga is continuous. We don't have, yoga should be continuous. It's not like I only do yoga when I step on my mat, and when I step off my mat, then that's it. No, it should be always continuous, and that's what we are practicing, is to try to keep that continuous, because I'm also a student. You said I'm an expert, but I'm not an expert. I'm still learning. I'm a lifelong learner. I still study. There's so many things I still need to learn. There's so many things I still need to understand and change, so that I can also go deeper. And so it's a continuous process. So start whenever you can and keep going. Okay. In terms of the physical practice, we often say, okay, practice before meal. You want to do it on an empty stomach. You want to clear yourself of, you want to clear your bladder and everything. You want to be clean before you practice. So it's like you're doing a ritual for yourself before you start. If people are wanting to start yoga, but they're not sure, how can I start? There's a lot of information. There's a lot of things online that they can access, of course. But if you're a complete beginner, I suggest the best thing to do is to find a teacher. There are a few teachers now in the Gambia. So to connect to a teacher, to try a session, because if you've never done it before, and especially with the physical asana practice, it's good for you to get the correct guidance. If you are following something on a TV, then you don't know if what you are doing is the correct thing, or maybe there's something different that you're doing, but you're thinking you're doing the correct thing. So it's always good to have some kind of in-person training or learning from a teacher that can guide you in the correct, direction. Having said that, not everybody has access to a teacher, so there is always things online that is geared towards, for example, beginner. So So don't just look at any video where they are doing handstands or trying to put their foot over their head or something, because you're not going to start doing that, right? You want to start basic so that you are not going to injure yourself, you're not going to scare yourself from these yoga practices. So look for something which is geared for beginner and try to practice that daily. That will be the best suggestion that I can give.
Thank you very much, and thank you for joining us today and shedding light on this interesting subject. It was wonderful to have you today.
Thank you very much again for the opportunity to share this information with everybody.
Yeah, thank you. So, dear viewers, that's all for today. Until we come your way, till then, take care. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
You're just kind of stuck in this cycle where we have to figure out how do we encourage private sector involvement so that we can produce and we can create more value versus the current method of getting a lot of debt, getting a lot of economic aid,